I appreciate everybody's help in setting up this meeting. My name is Kevin Elder. I'm one of the landowners next to the proposed project up here. Probably am one of the ones that stirred it up, going down to Yellowbud and taking pictures of the construction down there. Knowledge is power. We're trying to give you information, provide you sources of it. I'm sure Melissa, who has put all this together, will explain what's around the room. We encourage you to ask questions. It'll take everybody's participation to put this project in a different mode. Right now, they're proposing about 2,400 acres right now is leased to this one company. There's 1,600 or plus in the first stage of construction. I'm old enough now that I've seen projects come and go, oil and gas, coal. I worked for the Department of Natural Resources in the state, as well as helped my brother farm. And I've seen these type of projects come and go. This one has potential danger of impacting thousands of acres. Basically, some of the information around Ohio last year lost over 400,000 acres of farmland to development. It may not affect you, but 400,000 acres, when you're looking at crop production nationally in one state, is a significant amount. It may not impact food supply immediately, but if that continues to go, it will impact prices for everything. People don't understand the impact of agriculture.
When we talk about solar panels, we are not talking about solar panels you put on your barn or your house. That is what we would consider residential solar. It produces typically less than 5 megawatts, and we're not fighting that. So when we start talking about solar, it is really important that we say industrial solar. We have to be painting the correct picture. We are not opposed to people doing whatever they want on their buildings. We're talking about things that affect a much broader sense of the community. The next group of solar is that produces between 5 and 49.9 megawatts. This is called community solar. I think that's a really cute name. It sounds friendly and nice, right? Well, here's the thing about community solar. To produce 49.9 megawatts, you would need 420 acres. That is still considered community. That's not what I would call a nice, friendly development. You be the judge. However, what you need to know about this is House Bill 501 gives the township trustees the opportunity to rule in their township about community solar.
And we have.
Now let me give you a little bit of history. In 2008, there was a House Bill 562 that took away local power about siting energy projects and gave it all to the Ohio Utility Protection Commission. At that point, there was no local control whatsoever. It is only very recently, at the beginning of this calendar year, when House Bill 501 was passed, that township trustees got the opportunity to represent their constituents about community solar. To me, this is really important, and maybe it's because I do maybe far too many things based on the principle of the thing. But we didn't have any say since 2008. Now we have say. To let our township trustees do nothing means they're doing something. They're allowing anybody to come in and develop a community solar project, which could be as much as 420 acres, which could be located next to another 420 acres, which could be located next to another 420 acres. You get my drift. We have local representation. We need to utilize it. We may know all of these things, but if our trustees and our county commissioners are not getting this information or not understanding the importance, we have to make it important for them. So I will compliment Walnut Township. We are blessed to have two trustees who were willing to take action and show leadership and create rules for community solar in Walnut Township. Spread the word. The other townships, get on board. This is the most important thing you can do for your residents. It shows the county commissioners that you are not going to allow your local representation to be wasted, and it shows them how you feel about industrial solar as well, that you are listening to your constituents and you are paying attention. Township trustees, pay attention and do what's necessary to make this happen for your constituents. I was invited to speak to the Richland Township trustees, and I did so this last week. I opened that invitation, if you want to hear me talk. If you want to hear me talk more about this, have your trustees have me come in. It's free. I'll do it at no charge. And I will explain this to them. I don't expect them to be solar experts. I'm not a solar expert. There's not a solar expert in this room. But this is how we learn. I read a lot, I listen a lot, I pay attention. I'm trying to learn from other people who know a lot more about this than I do. After we move past this, then we get to this that's called industrial solar. This is 50 megawatts and above. These are huge projects. Senate Bill 52 was passed October 11th of 2021. Extremely important. People lobbied and worked on this bill for 15 years to get local control back. Now, we don't have all the control we had before, but we have some through our county commissioners. Our county commissioners can create exclusionary zones or outright prohibition on solar, and I'll say renewable. I'm going to say solar a lot because that's what I'm living, but when I'm talking about this, I'm really talking about solar and wind because they fall into the same category. They can do these two things. 10 other counties have already done it. It can be done, it has been done. Exclusionary zones are a wonderful thing. They can set that up any way they want to. They can confer with the township trustees and say, we're not going to do it in the whole township, or we're not going to do it east of State Route 37, or whatever. That's not the important thing. The important thing is that they have the opportunity to represent us. So when we're petitioning our township trustees about these local community rules, and ours have already done it, but if yours haven't, please get after them. We also need for them to appeal to the county commissioners and ask for this. These exclusionary zones or a prohibition. Legally, I think the exclusionary zone is probably stronger than an outright prohibition. I mean, it's dreamy to say prohibition of all Fairfield County, but I think that maybe invites more trouble down the road. However, if the county commissioners do not act before the project gets put together, these are very layman's terms because this is the way I operate. The project goes to PJM, Steve will explain in a minute. When the project comes out of PJM, it goes to the Ohio Power Siting Board. It doesn't hang out here in cyberspace somewhere for us to be prepared for it. We don't know when it's going to be released from PJM. That's why there's such a sense of urgency about this. The solar companies are saying, EDF is saying, we're still procuring land, so we're not ready. I don't trust them.
No.
So they have enough land to do their project. I think it's highly likely that they may be saying, this is just my opinion, they may be saying this, so we go, oh yeah, we got a couple years, no big deal, we don't have to wear these shirts for a while. I don't think that's the case, and I am not willing to take the risk. I want to err on the side of caution. Likewise, when we're appealing for exclusionary zones, this is not a life sentence. Laws change all the time. If we decide 10 years from now solar is the most wonderful thing to come down the pike, or maybe by then it will be, who knows? I don't know. That's the problem. None of us know. We don't know the answers to the questions. And until you can tell me that my water is going to be safe 20 years after they put this industrial development across from my road, I'm not going to rest. when we're appealing for these exclusionary zones, we need the county commissioners to act now, before the project comes out of PJM and goes to the Ohio Power Siting Board. It's a series of hearings, they're judicial hearings. We need attorneys, we need big bucks. If it goes to the Ohio Power Siting Board, because our projects are not grandfathered, although they may be partially grandfathered, nobody really knows these rules yet. Under Senate Bill 52, we most likely will have an ad hoc member of one county commissioner and one township trustee at the table to speak for us. You can have this representation, or you can have this representation, exclusionary zones. So when we're talking about awareness and education and the sense of urgency, it's real, it's out there. This has been lying like a sleeping giant with the case of EDF, and Amanda, I think, was even longer, since 2019 when they started signing leases. And we just now find out about it. These people are professional people. They are getting just shy of $50,000 per acre to develop these projects. Government subsidy money. That's your money. Okay, I'm not really angry, but I am looking forward to the Mexican restaurant. So, first thing you're going to hear as you're talking to your neighbors, property rights. I want to share with you some of my thoughts about property rights, and then I will shut up. If you buy any property in Ohio, you can expect there to be certain limitations placed on the property by the local township, municipality, or even a homeowners association. These rules were put in place to assure property values cannot be degraded by that neighbor who refuses to mow his lawn or wants to put a car on blocks in the front yard. Sometimes the rules are to assure safety for the community by requiring a fence around a pool or being sure to place buildings far enough away from the property lines or roadway to allow for vehicles to have a clear line of sight. Examples. So it's so common to live by these rules that we expect them. In Walnut Township, we have zoning, a set of rules that regulate what can be built where. If you buy land in our township, you will not be surprised to find that there are zoning rules that you must abide by. Walnut Township has areas zoned industrial. In an industrial area, 9.14 I2 states, any manufacturing, processing, cleaning, servicing, testing, or repairs of the following materials, goods, or products, when such uses will not be materially injurious, sorry, I can't say that very well, to the occupants of adjacent premises or the community at large, and where the emission or creation of noise, vibration, smoke, dust, or other particular matter, toxic and noxious materials, odors, fire, or explosive hazards, glare or heat, or electromagnetic disturbances will be minimized as much as possible. Furthermore, 9.14 I2 states in A, intent, it is the intent of the I2 district to provide areas for general industrial and warehousing uses free from the encroachment of residential, retail, and institutional uses. The land for these industrial solar projects is zoned rural residential. 9.2A intent reads, it is the intent of the RR, Rural Residential District, to provide for single-family dwellings on large tracts within areas of open land. The landowners and the solar developers are violating our township zoning.
The number is 740.
Hold on, we'll wait for you, Bob.
The landowners and solar developers are violating our township zoning. Certainly, if we are not allowed to build a home in an area zoned for industry, how is it that industry is able to build around our homes in an area zoned for rural residential? And by doing so, they avoid the requirement to not be materially injurious to the occupants of the adjacent premises or the community at large, etc. We are the community at large. If these projects are allowed to be constructed on prime farmland surrounding our homes, then we have no zoning. So the property rights argument for why these landowners should be allowed to proceed is not valid in Walnut Township. Property rights does not give anyone the right to do something detrimental to their neighbor, nor their neighbor's property. Nor does it give the 11 people who lease their land rights and remove the rights of those who own the 86 parcels who share fence rows with them. Those living in rural residential have the right to expect their neighborhood to remain rural residential, and the Walnut Township zoning resolution spells it out clearly.
They don't care.
Thank you for allowing me to be on my soapbox, but when we're first addressed, well, what about property rights? We all stand there kind of like, oh yeah, what about property rights? Well, you have rights too. And your rights are just as important as somebody else's. Now it is my great pleasure to introduce someone that I met recently through all of this. One of the best things about this is I have met so many smart, dedicated people. And so I would like Steve Feeney to come forward. He's going to talk about PJM and who gets the power. Because after you hear the property rights argument, you're going to hear the power stays here. And that's silly.
So I've got 10 minutes. So what I'd like to do is I just want to give you some background on myself. I grew up in New York. In 1978, I graduated from the University of Buffalo, and I graduated with a chemical engineering degree. I also have a degree in chemistry from New York. I worked for a company called Babcock and Wilcox for almost 40 years. Now, some of you may know about Babcock and Wilcox. Few of you may know, but their claim to fame is on a letter by a guy named Birkenbauer. Thomas Edison wrote, "Babcock and Wilcox makes the greatest boiler God has yet allowed man to make." That's their claim to fame. I've been to at least 100 coal-fired power plants in my life. I've been to industrial plants. I know people at AEP. I know people at Duke Power. I know people at First Energy. Most of my career was spent going to coal-fired plants and industrial plants. I did a lot of work recently on wastewater treatment. I've even done some work on soil remediation. But mostly I'm not doing anything. I even recently got a call from Central and Southwest Power over in Steubenville. He wants me to help him on a mercury problem. That's another thing. So that's kind of my background. Why am I here? I live in Lancaster. I'm Bloom Township, and I'm here, I know now, because of Kevin Elder, because he put signs up that said no solar on prime farmland. And we're driving down to Christmas Park from my house with my wife. I'm like, you're not going to put solar in Ohio. I had no idea. I'm a power guy. I didn't know this. It's crazy, right? But they're going to do it. So one of my problems is, and Melissa's so kind, Midwesterners are very kind compared to New Yorkers, okay? So I wrote an article, and it's called Solar Corner, and it was really complicated. And, and Melissa goes, "Steve, that was a great article. I really love that article. But you really need to be, kind of tone it down." And my wife said, "You make it too complicated, okay? So I'm going to try not to make this complicated, okay?" So PJM is Pennsylvania, Jersey, Maryland Interconnect. It's a regional transmission organization. They're across 13 states. They're a monstrous organization, and they're responsible for transmitting and distributing power. Okay. Well, there's 3 things required to send power somewhere. You got to make it, and you got to transmit it, and you got to distribute it. You can think of it like, some people talk like a highway. You're on the superhighway, you're going real fast. That's like the transmission system. Very high power. At your house most of you have 240 volts at your house. Well, the transmission lines, the big towers, they have 138,000, 345,000, 500,000 volts. That's how many volts they have, but your house has 240. So when it comes out of a solar plant, it's very low. It starts out as direct current, they change it into AC, and then they upload it to transmit it. So I was talking to a guy at AEP, and he had a very funny quip about this. I said, they're telling people, the solar companies are telling people that, the power stays right here. It's, power plant's right by you, it's gonna go right to you. And he said, are they going to tag every electron? Okay, once it goes up to the transmission system, it's going where the transmission system says. You have no idea. You could be right next door to the power plant. It doesn't mean you're going to get those electrons. It depends on where it's sent and how it's distributed, but it definitely doesn't come from there to your house. No way, unless they would develop a special microgrid, it's called, that's only at your house or in your little neighborhood. But they don't do that. Solar developers, they just want one thing: build a plant, make American Electric Power, PJM, transmit the power. So that's PJM. So where does it go? It goes where PJM tells it to go. Okay, that's where it goes. And I'd just like to say one more thing. I could keep talking, but I know we're kind of behind. I just want to say, I've heard a lot of people say I am personally not against solar. But I want to tell you something. I am personally against this isn't industrial solar, this is utility solar. AEP rates just went up, what, 30%? Now, if renewable energy is less expensive than coal-fired and nuclear, then why do rates keep going up? California rates are 75% above the national average. 12% of California electricity is renewable. And remember, 30% of their power comes from out of state. So why are their rates 75% higher if it's so much less expensive? It's not less expensive, okay? And if someone can prove to me with data that it's less expensive, like in Germany, hello, it is not. In Spain, no, it's not. Any states that have a major renewable construct are more expensive. So I'm really done. I'd be glad to answer any questions, but to say that the solar power comes from this field to your house is wrong. It just doesn't happen that way. It doesn't work that way. It goes up onto the line, it goes to a substation, they boost it up because it's low voltage, they bring it up to high voltage, it goes out on transmission lines, it goes to the distribution center, and then it comes back, right? It does not go directly to your house. And depending on the voltage on the transmission line, it can go only so far. The electric grid is it's got to be one of the most complicated machines in the history of mankind. And just all these point sources coming in now, on rooftop, you got to pull it in. It's extremely complicated. That's why rates are going up. That's why AEP wants more money. That's why Central and Southwest Power wants more money, is because they're putting in, utilities used to own all the utilities, but there's very few coal plants are owned by utilities anymore. Why? Because power generation is deregulated. Transmission and distribution is regulated. So why is it that the utility companies are very eager to put in substations and lines, and towers, because they're paid. They get money for that. If you build a power plant, you don't get money. The investors, they get money, because as soon as they build it, they sell it. They don't care about you. They don't really care about the people. I live in Lancaster. I live in Bloom County. I live in a homeowners association. They're not going to put solar by me. But they're going to put it by you, and they're going to make us seem like if we don't do it, there's something wrong with us, right? And I don't know. I'm a little passionate about it. I don't want any money from anyone for any of this. I just want to try and stop every single solar utility plant in Ohio, because none of it is needed. Thank you.
Amen.
Just to go back to PJM a minute. Real simple fact. I consider PJM to be the control tower for all the flights. It tells the flights when they leave, where they go. PJM controls electric transmission throughout 13 states. Another little fact, before I make the introduction, I'm going to steal it. EDF is Electricité de France company. It's a French multinational electric utility company, largely owned by the French state. Headquartered in Paris, EDF's 2022 fiscal results are a significant downturn. Even though in 2022 their sales went up to $143 billion, they lost $18 billion last year. Moody's downgraded EDF issuers rating to a Baa1, which isn't one I would want to invest in. So EDF is a parent company that controls Eastern Cottontail. Chipmunk is also an EDF, and there are in many other locations across the United States. But the issue is, it's a foreign company. It's not controlled by the U.S. Their losses went from a positive $4.8 billion in 2021 to a negative $18 billion in 2022. So this is what's coming in to construct Eastern Cottontail. With that, I'd like to introduce another speaker from down in the Pickaway County area, and I'll mess your last name, Toby Bocher. I'd encourage you to make yourself aware of what's going on around you. Toby, tell us your experience and some of the background. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm just a resident of Ross County. There's going to be pictures up here. First of all, what I want to tell you guys, there's been a lot of information thrown at you. The first thing I'm going to probably emphasize the most to you is people. Get as many people as you can involved, because you're looking at the only one that's involved on my side. That's me, my family. There's nobody else, okay? Every dime I've spent with an attorney come out of my pocket. Every amount of time I've done is with my wife, my son, or myself, doing all this, paying for drones, doing whatever it takes to try and stop them, to find out that there was no stopping it. So get as many people as you can informed, understand what you're dealing with, which is a large conglomerate, foreign company that's trying to come in here and take our tax dollars to do something that's not efficient. That's the bottom line. So the second thing you do after you get people informed is put your money together, and I'm going to start that fund for you right here in a minute. I'm going to give you $100 to start to get you an attorney, okay, and a land use attorney, because you can put all the petitions you want together, you can do all those things, but an attorney is what it's going to take, and it's going to take a dog to go after them. What you're looking at are pictures from right across the street from me, or the project itself. Trucks blocking the road. This is at 5 o'clock in the morning. That truck there that you've seen head on with me, he's asleep in the truck on our road, just parked there. This is our road flooded. Property right next to me flooded. Same thing. This is part of the project where they just stripped the whole thing. And I'm just going to try to hit some of these real quick and tell you what they mean. That's my house. This is a dust storm after they stripped it. You can see that the leaves are moving, but it's not, you know, this is not a tornado or anything. This is just a wind. You couldn't see across the street before I started filming. I couldn't do it quick enough. The state allowed them to run 24/7 to drive posts in the ground, so long as, when I say 24/7, let me rephrase that. As long as the sun was up, they were allowed to work, okay? So that's Sunday, it didn't matter. They didn't stop. And we're talking about hammering posts, thousands of posts in the ground, and it's like a jackhammer right up to your next door. Now, I've had the EPA involved. I've had them out there 3 times. The guy was 18 years old, 19 years old right in there. They came out there, I believe. Had no idea what he was talking about. He wrote them a citation to fix the problem. I've called them. I've got documentation where they told me it's not that they have to stop the mud and sediment and everything else. They have to mitigate it. That means slow it down. And if you don't like what we've done, sue them. I've got that in an email. This is the middle of the night, 1 o'clock in the morning probably. At my porch, I walked out, I could hear pumps running. I'm like, what is that? I drive to the next road, they got diesel pumps running from one water retention pond, pumping it closer to me, and another one pumping it closer to me, and another one pumping it onto the spillway that some of these pictures will show you. I bought my home to get away from the inner city. Lived in Columbus all my life, born and raised, okay? Raised my kids. My wife and I decided to move out of town. We moved, 35 minutes south to a rural area. We were surrounded by farm fields. That's what we wanted. Split my property off, sold part of it to my son. He built a home on the property, and then this happened. So my property value went down. My son went to refinance his brand new home so he could put up a porch on the back, and they looked at him and said, "You're $75,000 in the hole." Ain't gonna happen. That's what it looked like before solar across from my home. Okay, the Ebenex lives straight up there. So this point of the road right here, this is the natural waterway that I'm talking about they're pumping water to, from the pumps from over there to numerous ones to here. There's a waterway, right here it is. So you can see here's a water retention pond. That's the same one. This is, you can see this is backed up right there with water. I have no idea why they did what they did. And I'm supposed to have the heaviest screening in front of my home that they have on the whole project. You can, those pictures that you've seen were right across from my home. That's the screening was in place in that picture.
Yeah, didn't you say they were like that size?
Yes,
Similar to that?
some of them are like that, and, you know,
By the time it's decommissioned, then the trees will be big enough to hide it.
and I'll probably be in the ground. So,
Toby,
yes,
did they do anything to control noxious weeds during the construction or?
the weeds, no, actually across the street from my house, right there, that actually grew taller than the fence. I actually had to get county commissioners, the road department, everybody involved to finally make them mow that. And they came out and mowed it one day.
After it went to seed.
Yeah. I mean, there's pictures, and she's got, I sent them 160 pictures, so I'm sure she couldn't put them all on here. My Suburban, it's sitting outside, it's covered in dirt. My wife's Jeep, covered in dirt. You can't keep it clean. What they offered me, we're gonna get you a car wash card. We'll buy you a cover for your pool, and we're gonna wash your house once. And I told them to keep it all. They sold that project under those contracts, sold that to another company who made it bigger, and then sold it to another company who made it bigger. And they put a gag order on those folks. They're not allowed to talk about it. And they were trying to warn me, oh, they're gonna sue you. Bring it on. They can do whatever they wanna do. So the other thing I was seeing in all of this, and I'm gonna take this down for a second, this is industrial. One of the things they're not telling you, and I'm not talking about your people here, I'm talking about the system, it's an industrial farm, it's agriculture. They don't have to rezone nothing, okay? They don't have to rezone anything because it's called an industrial solar farm. So the division of agriculture and everybody else is involved. So your farmers, if any of you are here, your friends that are farmers, family members that are farmers, get them involved. You get you an attorney, get your commissioners, your township trustees, everybody to the state level. I've been to the state level, and that's what they told me. They said, well, we hired all local. That's bullcrap. I'm in the RV industry, okay? We sell RVs for a living. We've placed probably 300 RVs for these local workers. Why would you need an RV if you're a local worker? Okay? It doesn't work like that. You know, and my people are asking me, well, they're doing this to you. Why would you even deal with these people if they're, you know, those people are working for a living just like everybody in this room does. Okay? I'm not mad at them because they're doing a job. I'm upset with our government for allowing it. They don't know what they're doing, and solar is not efficient, period. It's just not. So you got to get people involved, and there's not enough people in this room to stop it, I can tell you that. It's going to take a lot more people than this. That's why everybody that wants to stop it needs to get somebody else involved. So everybody here, all of you people here, and you got to look out for your neighbors, and you got to look out for everybody else, your kids, your grandkids, the whole 9 yards, okay? And then you got to expect those people to look out for the rest. That's what we got to do as a community, look out for each other, because they're not going to look out for you. I can guarantee you that. They ain't looked out for me one ounce. The other thing I'm going to encourage you guys to do is get involved with Citizens for Responsible Solar. The lady that started that site knows her stuff. She actually got a portion of it stopped down where the Civil War grounds are, okay, down in Virginia. So you need to read about that, look at that. It doesn't cost you anything to join her, and it's Citizens for Responsible Solar. There's a lot of other wealth of information that she could help if you guys contact her. I think she can point you in the right directions, but she's the one that gave me some insight and helped me out. She's the only person, and doesn't even live in this state, that helped me. At least gave me good information.
Okay,
All right?
let's thank Toby. Melissa,
Yeah, I'm back up.
you're back up.
For the past 11 weeks, we have had speakers at the county commissioner meetings, which are typically Tuesday mornings at 9 o'clock. That is no small feat. We have had people prepare speeches and write letters to them and take off time from work to be there at 9 o'clock on a Tuesday morning. It's particularly difficult when the sun is shining, I know, but we need that representation. They want us to go away. We can't. We have been working on creating a mailer. This would be a card that we can send through the Postal Service, and we designate it by zip code. So initially, we're looking at sending that mailer to the zip codes for Millersport, Baltimore, Pleasantville, as just a place to start. And then we'll take it from there. Again, this brings up our need for fundraising. Obviously, if we go to the Howard Power Sighting Board, we're going to need megabucks. But in the meantime, we're still working on the awareness and education, so we need money to help fund us with that. That's going to help. That helps open up those conversations. It gives you an opportunity to say to your neighbor, hey, did you get that thing? Did you get that thing in the mail from Citizens for, do you know what that's about? And let's talk about it. Again, buy a t-shirt. I talked to a guy in the pharmacy the other day, you know, he's like, what's that about? He was very amenable to my cause. He had no idea what was going on. That's how you do it. One person at a time, one conversation at a time. But it's a long struggle, but we really, really need you to do that. Get those signs out in the township. Everywhere we possibly can. Barb and Frank are taking care of that for us. Get them out. We're also looking at ways that we can get larger signs placed. There are sign stipulations in Walnut Township, keeping signs from being any larger than 4 square feet. I find it funny, in a sad, sick kind of way. But that doesn't mean that we might not be able to put up a large sheet of plywood at the edge of Millersport. Let's talk to some of these landowners. Let's talk to people that have that opportunity, that where we can get some big signs up.
Well, could you use the community solar approach and just leave a little gap between each one of them?
Yeah.
Each letter.
I like it, and with rows of cabbage in between. I'm gonna turn this over. Leslie's gonna talk about letter writing. We cannot get too many letters. If you've written a letter, write another letter. I'd like for you to make a pledge to me right now. If I'm willing to get up here and spill my guts to you of something I wrote last night at midnight, I need you to just give me 10 minutes to write a letter to the county commissioners.
I went to a meeting 2 nights ago. One of the commissioners was there. I'm not going to disparage his name. You can pick from any 3. But he stood up and said, we can come and make speeches, and we can do this, and we can do that, but we're not going, as commissioners, do anything until it reaches the Ohio Sighting Board. After that application fee is paid, not good enough. We have enough time now, right now, to write. So what I came up with is, I made a postcard. Take one. If you fill it out before you leave, I'll even put the postage on it for you. I got these really cute little barn stamps. Okay? Just put on here, I'm not supporting the industrial solar project. We don't like to call it a farm. We don't like to reinforce that misnomer. Okay? Put your name and address on it, and I promise you, Girl Scouts honor, I will put postage on it and I will mail it for you. I've got a little crate right there. I got the postcards. I got pens. Just don't leave without helping me out with that, because they're telling us they're not hearing from enough people. Well, we want everybody to have their voice heard. So please help me out with the writing thing. I've got some for the trustees. If you don't want to write it here, take it home. You just have to get your own postage, and they won't be cute barn stamps.
Be sure and put your name, address, and phone number in that information when you write, because that's required.
But help us out. They're claiming they're not hearing from enough people. That nobody really cares, and that's not true. Nobody really knows. So I appreciate it, and I'll turn it back over to the next individual down the road.
If you have questions, we'll be around. You can come up and ask us. Tell your neighbors. This morning we were at breakfast, and one of the fellows, it's a farmer, he said, what's this meeting you're going to? He's not on Facebook. copy off some of the citizens' Facebook postings, Citizens for Fairfield Facebook postings, give it to them. Give them information about the meetings. Don't assume that your neighbors know about it. Thanks for coming. Please participate to your best abilities. Take a minute, write a letter, ask questions. We encourage you to participate. A few people can't do this. It's going to take work for a lot to get it done right. And it's going to take a lot to influence some of the politicians that are looking at that tax money, supposedly, that they're going to get. They don't realize that the farms they're putting out of business are spending $5 million a year on what's being proposed on inputs, and that multiplies through the community locally, unlike some of the solar panel stuff. And then they're selling those products for over $6 million a year, and that multiplies through the community. And these projects will put many farm operations, like was mentioned, out of business because of the loss of access to land. So thank you again. Feel free to look at all the information and pick up more and turn those blue cards in.